Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'm Ryan Auctioner, Director of Community Quality, and Parks and Recreation is one of the work groups I had the pleasure to help oversee. So let me dive into this subject and explain the project that has had a lot of work going on to it, as you all are well aware. So I want to talk about this piece of property south of Hafer Park, outlined here in yellow. Here, this is Bryant, to kind of orient everybody to the location. Bryant here, 15th Street. Here's Hafer Park. Here's the duck pond. And this blue is Spring Creek, kind of represents the area where Spring Creek is. So we're talking about just south of Spring Creek, this 22 acres here. There we go. Okay. So a little background. In 2021, Edmond citizens voted in favor of temporary tax to purchase the 22 acres that I pointed out. In February, City Council at the time tasked Edmond Land Conservancy, I'll refer to them as ELC, to create a conservation easement and bring that proposal forward. In March of 2023, ELC delivered that proposal to City Council. And since that time, ELC and city staff have been working to vet and review and make some edits and tweaks to that to ensure that it provides the conservancy and protection that is desired over that. Some of the folks from ELC are here this evening with me, specifically Barrett Matthews and Derek Smithy. Worked very much with those two and other members of ELC in the community to help develop this. And they've really led a wonderful charge on that. So very generally, the purpose of this easement is to preserve and protect that 22 acres as open space forever. And to not allow anything that would interfere with the conservation values of that property. This also, to further elaborate on that, the property shall, this is a term from the easement, remain a minimally developed natural area, public park. I want to touch on some of the highlights of the easement. The first one of those being that a narrow strip of land is excluded from this easement that was originally part of the 22 acres. I have an image here on the next slide. And kind of as an offset of that, so to speak, there's some additional city-owned property south of Spring Creek next to this parcel that we're proposing to include in the conservation easement. So that's kind of what this map illustrates. The red down here, this shaded area, what is part of the 22-acre tract that was purchased. The proposed easement does not apply to this tract, but it does in exchange apply to all of this green area here, in addition to the 22 acres that balance of the 22 acres that was purchased. So the proposed easement would include all of this body of the property and this additional city-owned property or previously owned city property shaded in green. Now, perpetuity is not a term I have used in my everyday lexicon until this project, but that does mean forever. So that is the intent, and it's certainly difficult, as all of you would know, to write something today that is going to apply to forever. So there's been a lot of very deliberate discussions and a lot of efforts from the city's perspective and ELC's perspective to try to get that as best as possible for the future. There are many prohibited uses identified in the easement. Some of those, to illustrate the points, are mining would be prohibited, structures, camping, livestock, ornamental gardens, and mechanical vehicles, except for those used for maintenance and construction of some of the improvements on the property. Speaking of the allowed improvements, this is an illustration of those improvements. I'll start off from Hafer Park, which is north of the creek here. Everybody might be familiar with the duck pond. Certainly most people are. So there's a proposal to build a bridge across Spring Creek, somewhere in this vicinity. and then to develop some improved walking trails and potentially some more primitive walking trails. Many design details to be worked out as part of that, but that is an illustration of the permitted improvements, and they're intentionally relatively minimal. Now, there are some other smaller aspects of that, such as an outdoor amphitheater, very modest place to sit and have a talk with a group of folks, and some signage and those sort of things are included, anticipated as part of that. So as a companion item, and one of the items on your agenda is a proposed memorandum. Say MOU. I'm going to get to that. Yeah. MOU between the City of Edmond and ELC. So I want to point out some of the features of that. Like the easement, there's no stated end date to this MOU, but we do hope that it's crafted in a way to help future generations understand the intent of the easement and how to navigate through potential changes that may be needed. As part of that MOU, the city agrees to a timeline related to those permitted improvements that I showed you the graphics of. The first one of those being that the city intends to start design of the permitted improvements in 2023. So not much time left, but we'll have opportunity to get started in reviewing some of the things with the Park and Recreation Advisory Board and some of those preliminary steps. Design is expected to be completed within 18 months, and work is to be completed within 36 months. So for perspective, if we were told today to go build this bridge, for example, I would plan on it taking 15 months just for the design, community engagement, feedback, and bidding and contracting before actual construction starts. Another aspect of this MOU is asking for the city to agree to financial terms, specifically to allocate the nearly $1.6 million to the benefit of this property. Initially to start with development of the bridge, development of the trails, and some of those other features identified on the permitted improvements. There's also some money set aside in this budget as proposed for some maintenance and restoration of the property. Now, of course, we don't know what the price tag of the bridge will be, for example. We have a concept of that and an idea and an estimate of that, but we'll see how far that funding gets down the priorities is the way the MOU approaches that. So that nearly $1.6 million is the balance of the tax that was collected, the temporary sales tax that was collected. I say the balance because that sales tax went to pay for the purchase of the property and the process is related to that, removal of asbestos that was in one of the structures there, demolition of the structure. It paid for some consulting fees to assist ELC in creating some of the images that you've seen here this evening and is related to that. This was recently reviewed by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and they recommended approval of it at their recent meeting. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability or elaborate on any of that further if need be. And I'm sure there's representation from our partners here with ELC who may have comments to make as well.
Any questions, comments right now, Council?
The only comment, just I know a whole lot of work by a lot of people, a lot of folks in the room tonight who have worked really hard on this, and it's exciting to see it coming to fruition and know that the low-impact trails will be developed and that this property will do what the voters wanted it to do. And one thing I advocated for was that the excess of the sales tax be allocated to this particular project, and so I'm happy to see that that's happening too. Thanks for all the work by a lot of people,
Very good. Would someone from the ELC like to come up and say a few words? Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I am Derek Smithy. I'm chair of the ELC, and I also chaired the work group that put together this plan in partnership with citizens of Edmond and city staff. First off, thank you for the opportunity to serve Edmond. That really is what we're about, and we appreciated being given that chance. And we believe what we brought forward to you with Ryan is a really excellent plan, and we look forward to working with the city on that. We're excited about getting through with talking and getting on with doing.
Yeah.
So we're excited to see that happen, and thanks to all of you for your support and patience.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.